Hey, DJ Anubis here, along with my partner, the Poet King. Hey, ground poet, how you doing, sir?
I am happy to be here. How's everyone doing?
Hopefully they're doing well. It's a lovely Thursday. It's getting colder outside. It's going to be cold the next couple of days, but outside of that, pretty good. So we're going to get into the Super Bowl. I'm depressed, yet I'm okay at the same time.
My heart is full.
See, I know deep down you were like, the Bengals lost.
Oh, not deep down. I was.
So yeah, we have the Eagles will be playing the Chiefs. Mahomes is Mahomes. That's really what it comes down to. Let's start with the Niners and Eagles game from last week. Now, score was 31-7, but there was a lot of play here. I mean, the Niners were just their quarterbacks just what was their first drive? Purdy gets knocked out of the game. And that means they're left with Josh Johnson, who also gets a concussion later. Had to bring Purdy back just so he can hand it off.
The debate was, should they just let Christian McCaffrey be their quarterback?
Yeah,
that was the debate, and that's not a good place to be in.
Probably because they didn't want to lose him either. It was just like one of those things. Like, what do you do? But again, it kind of. I think I had predicted a 31-17 ball game at that point. So even though the Niners never got any more points, they were tied at one point before. Was it Johnson able to do that? Yeah, because McCaffrey had like a big run or something.
Yeah, it was a game where early on Philly got the turnovers and you thought they were going to pull away, and then it just stayed 7-7 for a while.
Yeah.
Credit to San Francisco. We're talking about the predictions, and after watching that game play out, even if Purdy didn't get hurt, I think my prediction about them eking out a win would have been wrong. I mean, you never know, but the Eagles, I've been saying all year that roster is disgusting, and that roster is just, it's filthy. Philadelphia, they don't nail every single draft pick. It's impossible, but they have consistently produced quality teams. Their biggest lull for times that I can think of when they were bad was when Chip Kelly was their coach, and they weren't even terrible then. Like, that's a quality front office. That roster is stacked, and quite frankly, it felt like I was watching a JV team play a college football team. It was very one-sided. The Eagles are just so much more physical.
Yeah, they really impressed in that game. I mean, it's as much as the Niners tried to stand in with their own defense because they had a pretty good defense themselves, but after a while, it's like you're just on the field too long, and it's like Hurts and company just gonna keep putting that pressure on you.
And that was the thing too. Like, Hurts did not have a good game passing, but he was still, just him being on the field puts so much pressure on a defense and makes you the triple option. Just puts so much, not just pressure, but I feel like it has to be demoralizing at a certain point. And the Niners, like, they have arguably the best defense in football. And there have been there were analysts who said, like, if this team had a top 5 quarterback, we might view them as not just the Super Bowl champion, but an all-time team. And ultimately, it sucks that they went through 3, then 4 quarterbacks, and I feel like Kyle Shanahan's cursed. I feel like he's cursed.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because I saw something posted on Twitter earlier today, I think, or something. But when it came to Trey Lance, Shanahan said something to the effect of, we'll see if he can keep himself healthy. And I thought, yeah, I get that kind of point, but you just lost your other 2 quarterbacks from the same kind of, just injuries in themselves. So Purdy, impressed, but he has to get surgery on his elbows. So it's like, yeah. Are they gonna? Do you think they're even gonna take a chance at maybe trying to take another quarterback?
I don't know if I'd blame them. I mean, here's the thing with Trey Lance, and I was a Trey Lance believer. Uber talented, one of the more talented quarterbacks to come out in the past 5, 6, 7 years. He didn't play a lot one year because the pandemic went to a smaller school, yada yada yada. So they might look at him like like a business does. Like really good businesses, they're not scared to cut their losses and move on. They won't go into the sunken cost fallacy, of, well, I paid, we developed him for a while and we traded all these picks. So if they're sitting there and they think that they could, I'm not saying that they will, but they could be like, yo, CJ Stroud is our guy. Let's trade more picks. Or if they
Right.
to get Aaron Rodgers or any of the, something, there might be something boiling. Like, remember when there was rumors that Stafford was going to be traded and people were like, I don't, and then he was, like, you never know what would happen. And for them, I mean, their window is closing fast. They have a lot of guys to pay. They have a lot of guys to pay on defense. It's not a defensive league anymore. Now you're stuck. You have to pay everyone on offense and keep just enough good defensive players. The only thing that's really saving their cap situation is the fact that they don't have a quarterback to pay, and they free up some money with Garoppolo coming off the books. I feel like, to me, if you look at that division, Kyler Murray's not going to be healthy. He's going to miss some time next year, and the Cardinals are kind of free falling, right? They moved on unceremoniously from their coach. The roster is really not as strong as it used to be. You have no idea what the Rams are going to look like next year. My Rams are in cap hell. You don't know how healthy Stafford's going to be. There's speculation that the coach is going to move on, that Aaron Donald's going to retire, and both of them came out and said, no, I'm staying, but they have to keep saying it, which isn't always the best sign.
Right.
Who else is that in that division? Seattle. Seattle was a great story. They don't really feel sustainable, and even if they get a quarterback, which I think they are going to draft a quarterback, they're not going to necessarily
Get down now. Hold on one sec. She's getting into things that she shouldn't be into.
Yeah, she saw that you were distracted and the time is now.
Yeah, she does that.
My dog did that earlier today. I got up off the couch and then I just heard the sound of a potato chip bag exploding. Now she's protesting.
Yeah. Go play and protest upstairs. Yeah, take your toys and leave. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I would have thought maybe they might try to trade Lance to see if they can move up in the draft, maybe take a different quarterback. Still start maybe Purdy, see if he can do more than what he did this year. I know that's kind of a gamble because he was like a fifth rounder, but he played really well within that system. So,
I mean, it's the Shanahan system. That's a system where RG3, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Purdy, all different types of quarterbacks have looked good. And that kind of takes me to my next thing. I am a huge Kyle Shanahan fan. I'm a huge Mike Shanahan fan, unabashedly so. I was not impressed with how the Niners looked. They made some really stupid penalties. Greenlaw played one of the dumbest games I have ever. Like, that guy, and Greenlaw is a stud, and he's not a dumb player. I think they were just paying.
That was probably a lot of frustration too. I think they
yes. There's another game where I think frustration came.
But we will probably talk a little bit about the officiating for both these games as well, because apparently, even though this one wasn't quite as controversial as the other game, I guess the Niners had far more penalties than the Eagles did, but
Well, I think there's a reason for that. I think that the Niners broke down when Purdy got hurt. I think these players are human beings, and when you know that Purdy has played well, but he's not a stud, and you're just kind of holding on, and but for your great line and your offensive firepower and your great defense, there's almost no margin for error. Like the Bengals and the Chiefs, they showed us they had all kinds of margin for error in that game because of who their quarterbacks and wide receivers were, right? Yada, yada, yada. So when Purdy went out and then they knew he wasn't coming back in, and Josh Johnson, who was just absolutely freaking horrible, and he's been a backup for like 15 years in the NFL.
They said he's been on like 13 or 14 teams.
Yeah, it's the Josh Johnson tour. He travels America and stinks it up as a quarterback. I mean, he's been good enough to stay in the league. That's impressive. I'm not trying to really dunk on the guy, but like when that guy comes in the NFC Championship game, you almost certainly lost.
Yeah.
And credit to Philly. Um, they managed to do everything they needed to on defense, and offensively when things weren't working, they didn't turn the ball over, they didn't force crap, they played a smart, methodical game, and they leveraged their amazing roster and advantage. And while that game was a snooze fest and not nearly as awesome, I think, as everyone had hoped for, they did what they were supposed to do. Just made for crappy TV, but they did it.
Yeah. Now with the Bengals and Chiefs, I think I predicted Bengals 27-20, which if they had actually taken the ball and scored with those last 2 minutes, I probably would have been right on the nose.
And I predicted a blowout.
Yeah, you did.
I did, and
I was sitting there going, "Oh, he jinxed these motherfuckers. He did it on purpose."
I only did it one time, and that was shout out to Mo. That's it. I had to prove a point to Mo, and we're not going to get into that because I love Mo. But let's get into how horribly wrong I was, because I think that is something people might enjoy. The basis of my horrible take, my indefensible, silly take, was the Chiefs have baby corners, and their pass rush has never gotten to Joe Burrow, and the Bengals own them. So, with that being said, I was like, they can't stop their wideouts. Their pass rush gets to Mahomes. Mahomes is hobbled, yada, yada, yada. So that sounded great. And then they actually played the fucking game. And the Chiefs got to Burrow. And they sacked him like 5 times, 4 in the first half. The line was a little bit better in the second half. And they changed what they were doing, yada, 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 yada. Everything that I thought was going to happen went wrong. The only saving grace that I had was early on in the game when the Bengals were moving the ball amazingly. The Bengals, I think they were the best first half team offensively. I know there's some crazy stat about how they score the most touchdowns on the first drive out of anybody. Like that's Taylor's bag.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be kind of a shitty game, or at least not as well as I thought when I looked, and it was like usually they jump out on people at least a couple scores, and
Yes.
they didn't do that. So now I felt better by the second half when it was tied up at 13. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I did too, and I was rooting for my pick because I want to be right, but I was also rooting for the Chiefs, and I just have to say it. It was amazing, and the Bengals have no one to blame. I mean,
it was amazing, baby.
Look, you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins versus nothing corners. Maybe those corners will be big boys one day. They were not. I mean, actually, I take that back. They were that day. You should have abused them, and you didn't. Now, the third wideout, Hurst or whatever, he dropped a beautiful pass in the end zone.
Now,
you should have caught that.
I was working like through both these games, so I mean, maybe I was watching a little bit on my phone, but I was doing work delivering, so I didn't get really a chance to see a lot of either game. But I had heard that Boyd had gotten hurt early in the game, and that was the guy that was going to kind of be like this key proponent for the Bengals. So once he went out, that kind of limited some stuff there. And then I heard, I didn't see the stats, but how much did they run Mixon? Because a lot of the commentators were saying that they were expecting Cincinnati to
and that was a Mixon ran 8 times for 19 yards. And it was one of the it's so stupid because
the Dallas mistake.
When they ran the ball on the Bills, it's not like they ran the ball against Buffalo 50 times or whatever, but they just said, look, our offensive line isn't that great when it's healthy, and it's not healthy, but we have thick boys, so we're just going to run the ball a lot, and fuck you. You have to stop the run, and then we'll play action, let Joe Burrow do Joe Burrow things. And then they just went out there, and I feel like Zach Taylor got cocky. And, even as someone who was predicting a blowout for Cincinnati, I was like, they're still going to give Mixon 15, 16 touches. And then this year he's been catching a lot of passes. I thought he was going to get about 20-ish touches, and they were going to use the short passing game as an extension of the running game. And they somewhat did the latter, but not the former. It was a poorly called game. The Bengals did absolutely nothing right offensively. Joe Burrow threw 2 horrible picks. And look, I am a Joe Burrow fan, as much as it pains me to say. And there has been a narrative that came out after the game about how he wasn't that bad, and then the pick that he threw that was long, it was really like a third down punt. Both of those things were nonsense. He played abysmal. He did not play well. Just watch the game. We can nitpick whatever.
Well, I heard that the Chiefs defense were actually getting pretty good pressure on him. So
they did, and I will give him credit there. The first half they sacked him 4 times. They crushed him. The second half they got him 1 time. They changed what they were doing a little bit. They still didn't run the ball enough, which was driving me insane. But on that second pick, he had, I want to say it was Higgins, open, and he threw the ball short. And so yeah, it was a nice play by the defender and all that. And he had another one. It was kind of like the same thing with Chase, where the ball went off Chase's face mask. It was a weird pass, but he didn't hit a couple of deep passes that he did, and one of them that turned into an INT because he kind of underthrew it. And I hold Joe Burrow to high standards because, for my money, I view him as the second best quarterback in the league. I'm going to be hard on him. The reality of the situation is, I think Joe Burrow knows he didn't play well enough, and I would imagine that next year in the playoffs, they're going to be fucking really hard to deal with again. I just need them to pay. I need them to pay one of their receivers. I need them to lose some depth. Jesus fucking, why is that roster so good? I fucking hate it. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, they started the season kind of slow, but they picked it up and got back to the AFC Championship game. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, but, again, it's never easy to win in KC. Never is. Mahomes is Mahomes. He continues, as much as I hate the Chiefs, he's like the most impressive quarterback I've seen in a long time in terms of able to scan the field, make plays on the run. Like, Josh is good, obviously, but Mahomes is like a whole other level. Like, it's just
that touchdown he hit when he was scanning the field over the middle, throwing at an awkward angle, hitting the guy in a tight angle. Like, he has a strong arm. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the league, let alone of all time. He's definitely not fast, but he has good mobility and he's slippery. He's like great, but not greatest at so many different things. And it just accumulates until it's like you're playing a video game character. I felt that way about Aaron Rodgers, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see anything better for that specific part of quarterbacking than that. And then Patrick Mahomes came along, and I was like, well, fuck, okay. All right. Now, Andy Reid deserves a lot of credit, and up until this year, he's had plenty of weapons and things like that. But, I mean, I don't agree with the people calling him the GOAT. I think that's a little premature, but I do agree with the people who said that if he retired next year, and oh god, there'd be a lot of sadness in Kansas City, but if he retired this offseason, never played again, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Definitely. So going to the Super Bowl now, I think I last heard the Eagles were favored by 3.
Yeah.
We're going to give our scores and our picks, but I guess I have to kind of like agree with you in this sense that, and we go back to the Niners-Dallas game where you said it came down to coaching, which it did. It kind of did in that game. And this is kind of true here too. I mean, you got Reed versus a young coach in the Eagles. Even though the Eagles are very impressive, KC has proven that they can face adversity because they lost Tyreek in the offseason. The receivers, to me, really haven't been mind-blowing. I mean, they make plays, and it's mostly Mahomes. But, I mean, outside of Kelsey, it's really been just Kelsey.
It's Kelsey. And, like, so, to your point, how many catches – I think this is going to screw you up because it screwed me up. How many catches do you think Juju Smith-Schuster had this year? I'm going to double-check to make sure I have the number. Right.
I can't – I feel it can't be any more than 500 and something.
Okay. So – this season, let me
actually, I'd say it's probably more between 300 and 400.
So this season, he has 78 catches for 933 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
That is the quietest almost 80 catches and 1,000 yards you've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like he had like a couple games where he's an NFL wideout. We're not saying he's a scrub or anything. He's a starter. He's a starter, but he'll have
I
a
don't know. I
game
don't
where
know why I said 200, 300. That's way too much.
you might have been. I think he. I took
I was probably thinking yards or
yard.
something. But
Yeah, 300. He's the most dominant player in NFL history. No, but it's
Cortland Sutton had 1,000 catches this year. Like, come on, man.
oh, it's like with Juju. If you look at his game logs, it's like 50 yards, 60 yards, 70. He's always contributing, and he might have a big game here or there. He certainly had some big catches. But, it doesn't even feel as impactful as like 1,100 yards from some number 2 wide receivers because it's mostly Kelsey, and it's Mahomes hitting who's open. And maybe that's their hidden strength. Like the next gen stats show that their big play game is much smaller because they don't have Tyreek Hill. But now you don't have anyone. If you could take Tyreek away from them, it was so damning to the rest of their offense. And
that just goes to show, though, that the common theme with great quarterbacks is they can take your most average receiver and make them productive. So Manning did it, Elway did it, Brady's done it. Just great quarterback play can help make these other players elevate their play. So
yeah, no, I agree. And it's like those guys, they'll take a great receiver and they'll make him look like a Hall of Famer. They'll make a Hall of Famer look like football Jesus. Someone good, they'll look great. Someone average, above average, and so on and so forth. There's a limit. I mean, at one point, Tom Brady was throwing to cafeteria workers, and he's like, I can't. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, so I was looking at stats for this year because I wanted to see like how they stacked up, and both teams are 1 and 2 in terms of offense.
Yep.
Eagles are 1, Chiefs are 2. But defense, it's a lot different. Defensively, the Chiefs have been around 15 to 16 ranking all year, whereas the Eagles are around 8th. And I think that's going to be the difference. And I think that's what's been the difference for the Eagles. I know Jalen's played out of his mind, but I think if the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be on that defensive side. They've got to get to Mahomes. They've got to create havoc. Got to shut down the receivers.
They can. That's the. I don't know if they can stop Kelsey. Kelsey does things that it seems, and maybe if there was a team to do it, maybe they can. Maybe they can just by proxy of pass rush. Who knows? But like Darius Slay and the second corner, whose name escapes me, and he's been real good. I don't know if they're big enough to do what Jalen Ramsey used to do against tight ends and just put them on him. Maybe they have to scheme it, or maybe they're content with, look, Kelsey's going to eat, but if we stop him from 2 scores, 200 yards, let's see what the rest of you guys do. I don't know. What I do know is this. If I took Mahomes, I put him on the Eagles, and I took Hurts and I put him on Kansas City, the Eagles would be favored by like 10 points. And it's no knock to Hurts. I think at this point the viewers know how much I love that guy. But this is very much a case of the best quarterback versus a really good quarterback who has a better team. And I do feel like there's potential for Mahomes to walk away from the Super Bowl knowing how Elway felt when he had to play against Montana, where he's like, I'm so much better than that guy, but it didn't matter because they just beat the fuck out of me. And he kind of, to a lesser extent, I think he was the better quarterback when he played Brady and his line was hurt. He was missing 2 or 3 starters, and he was basically on one leg and coming off of the concussion. He got schmacked, but this is I'm rooting for Kansas City. I love Mahomes. I do kind of think though that this game is pretty slanted towards Philly.
I think it's going to have to be good defense, but I think on offense, the Eagles also have to stick with what works. And I know they can pass the ball, but they're going to have to run that ball. They're going to have to run it.
Yeah, they just have to stay true to the look. I mean, this is to your point. The triple option, when they're running that, Hurts can run the ball, the running back or the tight, because they do some fun stuff like the ball carrier who's not the quarterback can run it, or they can throw it. 2 out of those 3 options is running the ball. For me, for Kansas City, Frank Clark has to show up, and against that offensive line, good luck. Um, Maybe they'll move him around and get him on the worst tackle. And then Chris Jones, who I honestly kind of view it was kind of like my pick for Defensive Player of the Year, because I feel like the year that he had this season was fairly close to past seasons that Aaron Donald had. I'm not saying he's as good as Aaron Donald. I mean, I'm just saying that for this individual year, it's
Right.
gonna I think it's gonna go to Bosa, and there's a strong argument for Bosa, but he has to show up. This is very much like a Von Miller. The pass rushers have to show up, otherwise we will lose moment. I don't have a lot of faith in Frank Clark. He's not the type of guy you would have faith in either. Just kind of like some things that's happened with him this season, or how I've seen him play in the postseason. I know he's had, I think, sacks or whatever. This might have been the last game might have been the first time he got a postseason sack, but it's going to come down to Jones, and he's gonna have to go and dominate one of the best lines in football.
So who do you got? What's the score?
I'm gonna take Philadelphia 21. No. Sorry, Philadelphia 28. I wanted to say 31. 28. Kansas City 20. I don't. I think the way that the game is going to turn out, and I can't predict turnovers or punt
Right.
returns or stuff like that, but I think Kelsey is going to be the only person who's productive receiving the ball. I don't know. I feel like Kansas City has a running backs who could actually beat up on Philadelphia a little bit in their run defense, but Andy Reid loves to throw the ball, and that's just who he is, sometimes
Yeah.
to a fault. And I look at those corners, and I look at that front seven, and I just see Mahomes being overmatched, and I see Jalen Hurts, who did not play all that well against San Francisco, going up against a defense that's pretty good, but not on San Francisco's level. And there's just more to exploit. And simply point, I got burned for saying this last time, but I still believe it's true. I don't like those corners against Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. And so I predict between those two touchdowns and 200 yards. Maybe one goes for 120 and one goes for 80, but I think those receivers are going to eat. I think their tight end could potentially have a big game because the Eagles attack the seam. It's one of the reasons why I believed in Hurts when he wasn't what he is now, is that he could still hit that seam pass. And that's a dangerous pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big boy pass. I want the Chiefs to win. The Eagles winning and my guy Hurts winning will be a nice consolation prize. But after this game, Mahomes is going to hear, in my opinion, is going to hear a lot of, he won that one Super Bowl, but it was against Jimmy Garoppolo, and they choked. He's overrated. I think that's what we're going to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be quite as bad as it was with Elway, but I'm gonna stick with what has been working for me at least last week. I think the defenses do make a difference, and I don't see the Chiefs putting more than 21 points on the Eagles here, but I do see the Eagles maybe taking a turnover or two. I'm calling it Eagles 38, Chiefs 21 in this one.
Yeah, it's it would have been really interesting to see these two teams play with the Chiefs having Tyreek, but this is modern football, and guys get paid.
Well, I say, and again, the thing is, it all comes down to game planning. I mean, Reid, you said it. He likes to throw the ball, but if he's going to throw any wrenches, you might want to try to run the ball a little more against these guys.
And he, I should give him credit. He is one of my favorite coaches. Partially because he's fat, and we got to rep the fat guy. All these skinny ass coaches, I don't like it. I don't like this fucking trend. These skinny ass coaches. Coaches are supposed to eat meat, cuss, drink alcohol, and die at 70. That's the football I grew up on. That's the football that I want. Damn it.
It's manly, man.
That's right, exactly. I'm going to eat so much red meat that my stomach explodes, as God intended. I want to see if he's going to run the ball And if he's not, and he's going to do the passing game is the short passing game is the extension of the running game, I want to see how well he can scheme that up, because I should give him credit. He has had times, even in the postseason, where he's not run the ball a lot, but he's treated the screen game basically as part of the running game, and it has worked. So what I just hope is, I hope they don't do the stupid play that rarely works, where they're like, I'm going to give Travis Kelce the ball, and he's going to be the like, that shit drives me insane. It worked twice in the fucking red zone. Let it go. Let it go.
All right. Well, I think we'll probably do a regular show in about 2 or 3 weeks after the Super Bowl's been settled, and we'll get into a little bit of the Broncos, their new coach, and some of the other stuff that's going to go on. We'll probably start getting into a little bit of
Draft
March
season,
Madness and basketball.
Yeah. Talk about how my Kentucky Wildcats are just set on breaking my heart every fucking year. But we can also talk about how the Bengals didn't win the Super Bowl and how that's awesome for me.
How that really gives you good feelings there.
I want to bring this up real quickly, and this is something that I believe wholeheartedly. The Bengals might have won if they didn't talk so much shit. And they talked. Yeah,
I was not even aware of that. Even the mayor was talking smack, and I'm like, you must be the dumbest motherfucker on the planet.
He went to University of Cincinnati, and then all the he's a wrestling fan, so all those promos he cut after the game and all that trash talking, it was huge. And I know we didn't really get into it, but like there was some controversy for officiating. The officiating wasn't good. I will say this quickly though. The extra play that the Chiefs got wasn't an extra play. The clock broke. The ref was not on the field because he's not supposed to be there. He ran out onto the field. That was undesirable. That wasn't the big issue, in my opinion. The intentional grounding call on Burrow was bad. They overcame it. The Bengals got some rough calls. Now, that last call for roughing on Mahomes, it was a horrible play. I'm not saying that should be Osai's legacy, but anyone who wants to argue that was a bad flag or a bad call, you're wrong. I mean, we could just watch the play. I will say this, though, and this is something I want to bring up for the Chiefs, and I'll say something on the Bengals' behalf as well. The Chiefs lost an interception on a pass interference call that was probably right, but it was a bang-bang play, and it was a type of play that people look at and they go, oh, they don't play football anymore. And they lost a touchdown on a holding call that was no more egregious than all the rest of the shitty offensive line play in modern fucking football. So I will say that on behalf of the Chiefs. This is what I will say on behalf of the Bengals. Burrow did overcome a couple things. They did overcome a couple bad calls, but just because a team can overcome officiating doesn't excuse the bad officiating. And it's high time, and I felt this way for the NFL, and I've felt this way for a while in basketball. Referees need to have to answer questions in the post game. They need to be accountable. It's not accountable for the league to go, oh, we screwed this up, we're so sorry. It's the same refs coming back year after year after year. They get paid fairly well. They get to travel the world. I'm not saying that they need to be harangued. I'm not saying I would settle for them just saying I screwed this up in a written statement, but it needs to come from the actual ref, because at the end of the day, we are seeing a lot of bad calls. And I know that their job is hard, and I know that they have to do it in real time. But some of the shit that they miss is inexcusable. And, I won't get political or anything like that. I'm not going to say what my opinion is on unions or whatnot. But there are some refs out there who would not be there but for union protection. All I'm saying.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to leave with is, despite all the calls in that game, I know the Bengals had the ball with 2 minutes left. They could have drove the field. They could have killed the clock and kicked the field goal to win. All you need was 3 points.
Yep.
Didn't get it done.
Nope. And
2 minutes. No, everything else before that doesn't mean shit. You had the ball 2 minutes. You could have did it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in and checking out this video. Hit the subscribe button. Hit some likes. And we will be back and see you another time when the Super Bowl's been done.
That's right. Go Chiefs. Go Eagles. Let's have a good game. And
I'm glad you threw the Eagles back in there.
I love Nick Sirianni, and I feel like not everyone is a Jalen Hurts fan in terms of his play, but everyone likes Jalen Hurts the person. He's a good guy.
All right, all.
Later.
You see me before you die.